All right, marketing is having a moment, and I made this slide before I came to Content Marketing World, and I will tell you I'm feeling it even more now. Of course, it's been a wonderful time talking with all of you, but it is a weird time in marketing, not just content marketing, but marketing as a whole. So many things have changed in the last 12 months, even things that we knew to be true for years are changing and are not true anymore. All kinds of rapid shifts. So if you are feeling like you're in your chaotic era, we all came here to learn we're not alone, so that's great. The Content Marketing Institute, right before the conference, put out their most recent B2B marketing report, and in that report, they found that less than a third of content marketers said that they thought their strategies were very or extremely effective. That was a little depressing. Robert Rose, commenting on their report, said B2B marketing is stuck. We're not driving forward, we're just treading water. So it was at least validating for me to know that a lot of us are kind of feeling that, like, what's happening right now? Why? What's going on? Unprecedented times. We all missed those, right? So they're back in a different and new and fun way. Obviously, a lot of economic challenges going on this year. That's resulting in increased investor pressure, in some cases layoffs. Some stats show up to a third of marketing teams have been impacted by layoffs this year. That's leading to a crazy competitive job market. And then, of course, we've got the rise of AI. We can't not talk about AI, but we're not going to talk about AI that much in this session, and how that's impacting and disrupting all of our roles. We could spend probably all day on any one of those topics, but today we're going to dive into Google and some search-related changes that are impacting our traffic and how we can pivot our strategies. So what's Google been up to? Take a little peek behind the Google curtain. So for SEO-savvy content marketers, we really did enjoy a pretty nice era the last couple years. That whole idea of inbound is king, content is queen, worked really well. The mantra, if we build it, they will come, actually was somewhat effective. I saw this firsthand. At one of my previous roles, we built topical authority in a new area really quickly with high volumes of high quality content, starting top of the funnel, going all the way down, and that was pretty effective. And for some businesses, it certainly still might be, but I know for myself personally, I have started to notice that those strategies are not working as well as they did before. Times have changed. We're going to talk about 4 major changes here that have happened that have impacted search traffic. So for one, Google's been busy. They rolled out an unprecedented number of core algorithm updates in the last 12 months. I know we might not all be SEO experts here, but my SEO friends tell me this was a lot. And they were very disruptive for a lot of brands. Thousands of brands saw their traffic, in some cases, decimated overnight. Some were not impacted by the first, but maybe were impacted by the second. Some brands still have really not recovered the traffic, and some publishers reporting anywhere from 60 to 98% drops in traffic. That's all of your traffic. That's really bad. There was a search indexing bug in one of the core updates, which impacted people's rankings even more. Of course, Google wants us to know that all of these changes are for our own good. They're just trying to help us. We also know that Google is highly motivated to drive spend on paid media, right? There was also a leak in the spring that revealed, amongst other things, that Google definitely is prioritizing bigger, larger brands. So all of these things are making it hard for especially smaller to mid-sized businesses to show up on Google. Then we've got just this explosion of user-generated community content. So if you are a user of the internet, you have seen that Reddit is showing up on all of so many search results, showing up very frequently in the top search. Google expanded their partnership with Reddit this year, and they're using Reddit now to train their AI language models. Again, they tell us that has no impact on Reddit's rankings on Google. You can decide if you think that's true or not. But either way, even before the partnership, Reddit and other communities and forums were really just seeing this unbelievable surge in showing up in search traffic. You can see like 1,300% increases in SEO visibility, moving up in domain authority, almost a tenfold increase in the amount of search going to Reddit from Google, and very often showing up in the top 10, if not even the top 5. Top search results. All of that, again, making it a little harder for us normal people to show up and search. Here's a quick chart that I found where someone was showing how they were tracking a particular keyword, and you can see the traffic going to these other news sources, other types of websites, staying steady, and then this just unbelievable spike in traffic going over to discussions and forums. Then we've got zero-click marketing. I just went to a session earlier today. I hope some of you caught it. It was so good. And I'm going to talk about and reference SparkToro a number of times in this presentation because I think they're onto something with zero-click marketing. I think it's maybe one of the most interesting and impactful shifts that is happening and really important for all of us as content marketers. We've known for a while that this is a thing on social media, right? The platforms do not want links. They want to keep people on their platforms. But it's also a thing on Google. So some recent stats, up to 60% of Google searches ending without a click, 97% of pages, according to one source, getting zero traffic from Google, up to 30% of clicks going to a Google-owned property. So there we've got those paid ads again, and of course YouTube. And now we've got the AI overviews showing up, taking up a big chunk of real estate on the page, maybe up to 10% of searches. Some research shows double that for technology, so if you're in the technology sector. And half the time, the AI overview and the featured snippet are showing up together. So now you've got even more real estate on the page. And if people get the answer they need right there to their question, what reason do they have to click through to your website? I think that's particularly true if it's very top of the funnel content, kind of very basic, straightforward informational queries. People get their answer right there. I actually wanted to do a little experiment with this, so I tried one out. Let's pretend for a second that we all work at a small to mid-sized marketing automation software company. So a normal question, very top of the funnel that our audience might have would be, do I need a marketing automation system? So I put that in here in Google, and you can say, boom, AI overview, right? Taking up the whole first part of the screen. And AI overview has decided, yes, you do need a marketing automation system, by the way. They know that you do. And if you were looking to build a business case for a marketing automation system, it's all right here. You've got all your stats. You could put that together in a PowerPoint slide. You really don't need to click through. Let's pretend you scrolled a little bit further. Next, we've got, a little delay here. Here we go. Next, we've got a featured snippet from a big brand. So Salesforce, fourth largest software company in the world. They're getting the next spot on Google here. Followed by People Also Ask, which is just like a clicking rabbit hole, right? I'm not the only one, right, that gets just sucked into clicking into this. So you're going to get more and more information, again, without leaving Google. Scroll a little bit more, discussions and forums. We just talked about it. Followed by yet another big brand and Google's own YouTube. So at this point, I wish I had a way to illustrate it. I had been scrolling 4 or 5 times, and no small to mid-sized software companies are coming up here. So Google's making it harder and harder for people to leave Google, and then we've got the cookies. So Google has decided for now that they're not getting rid of cookies in Chrome, but Safari and Firefox already blocking cookies. We've got regulations pushing away from cookies. And even without all of that stuff, the users, us people who use the internet, have also decided we're not totally all in on cookies. So some stats, up to 70% of US adults are taking steps to block cookies. All of that means it's getting harder and harder for us to track what people are doing on Google, to attribute it back. I probably, like many of you, have spent years working on these lovely multi-touch attribution models where we can prove the influence that content has on revenue, and all of that is getting harder. It's getting harder to do. All right, that was the depressing part. So what is the overall impact? It's a lot, right? Andy Crestodina's blogging report just came out, showed that half of marketers say they're struggling to get traffic and attracting visitors. Even when we get lucky and our impressions go up, we're struggling to get clicks. And of course, attribution marketing's got so many blind spots now. That's the tough part. It feels like a reckoning is coming. I don't know if anyone else is feeling that way. Certainly a reckoning and a shift away from over-reliance on SEO, probably also a shift away from over-reliance on clicks, on website traffic, on rankings, those things that, again, maybe you could kind of cheat the system before. They're not working as well for us now. So we're going to talk today about exchanging that old playbook for something more future-proof, more flexible, that's going to work no matter what Google ate for lunch that day. We're going to talk through 4 things today. One is building a content strategy that's incredibly unique for your business. We're going to spend the bulk of our time there. Then we'll talk a little bit about investing in brand authority. We'll talk about reducing reliance on SEO with a diversified brand awareness strategy. And then we'll wrap up with a couple quick thoughts on reevaluating how we measure content marketing. All right, building a content strategy that's incredibly unique to your business. So again, what's not working as well, my experience might not be the case for everyone, but it's what I'm hearing and researching, and what's my experience as well, is content for SEO's sake really top of the funnel, basic content is not working as well. For one, we all know this, ChatGPT is really good at writing that content, and I don't like to admit that, but they are. And so it's not as differentiating for us to create that kind of content, right? And there's a lot of it, and the internet's full of it, and the really big brands are going to place for that kind of content, or the AI overview is going to give people the answer to that. Also trying to rank, again, if you're really only focusing on that very like SEO-driven top of the funnel content in an area where you don't have any authority yet is hard. That is getting harder as well. And in some ways, if you go too far on that top of the funnel SEO content, you can end up competing with your own product and solution pages. So if I were to put any investment into really like broad top of the funnel keywords, I would focus on optimizing my product and solution pages and then take the majority of my content in a different direction. And that direction is leaning into your unique niche. So this is about demonstrating your extreme expertise, and we're going to talk through a couple different ways to do this. One, going longer, going more in depth with your content. So again, we were blessed with Andy Crestodina's great blogging report just came out, and there were some really interesting insights in there. For one, he found that there was actually a correlation between blog post length and how people feel that their content strategies are performing. The average blog post is around 1,400 words, but people writing 2,000 or more words consistently say they're getting stronger results from their content. That's interesting. Also, the time being spent, it's kind of a similar trend. People spending about 4 hours on average on a blog post, but people who are spending 6 hours or more. I know we all have a lot of extra time, right? But the investment is worth it. They're saying they're seeing stronger results from their content marketing. Why is that? Andy included this quote from Casey Gillette, and they said, there is so much content out there that to really drive value now, you have to go more in depth. I find that our extended guides and our research-driven pieces significantly outperform our traditional how-to posts when it comes to traffic, engagement, and certainly leads. Why? They are interesting, they're unique, and they offer information that other content does not. Another way that we can lean into that unique niche, so going longer, going more in depth, but another way, maybe one of, I think, my favorite ones to talk about is going a little bit further into the funnel. So going more middle of the funnel, more bottom of the funnel, instead of top of the funnel. And we've talked about all of the reasons why. In my last role, we did consistently see that our middle and sometimes even our like really bottom of the funnel technical content was ranking significantly better than our attempts at more top of the funnel content. I also think there's some benefits there. Casey, in her quote, mentioned that this content is perhaps better for lead generation because we're hitting people who are further in the decision-making process, maybe a little bit higher search intent, and they're engaging with content that's longer and more in depth. So we're getting their time and their attention more and hopefully can drive them towards some kind of next engagement. So here's an example where in order to go deeper down the funnel, we've zeroed in on a really specific niche pain point, and I'm talking about like the niche of the niche. So this was targeting Jira administrators, an Atlassian software system, and the search keyword here, the topic is Jira custom calculated fields. Does anyone know what that means? I don't really know what it means. Anna knows what it means. And so this was a in-depth, pretty technical article, and it's ranking in, I believe, the 3rd position on Google, but really cool fun fact, it's also getting pulled in to the AI overview, which was awesome. And the other circle there, the JMCF, is actually the name of our product. So some great visibility there. I think another big benefit is that because this topic is so darn complex and technical, it's very likely that you're actually going to click through. You're not going to read that one snippet and be like, oh, I know how to go do calculated Jira custom fields now. So you're hopefully also getting that further engagement and conversions. Another way to go a little bit deeper down the funnel is to leverage internal and external subject matter experts. These could be your product experts, your sales engineers, solutions consultants. If you don't have that expertise in-house, working with outside experts to help build up that credibility. This was an example from an education software company, and we wanted to do some very in-depth content around this regulation, Section 504. Didn't have that expertise in-house, so we worked with a legal expert, did a series of webinars, got the transcripts, put that all on the page, so very long, very in-depth content on the page, and that was consistently one of our highest revenue influencing pieces of content and ranking very well in Google. Another way to go a little bit deeper down the funnel is to watch for that hot news that you can jump on really quickly. This was another example from my previous role, and Atlassian rolled out some limits on how many automations people could run in Jira. It was a big deal for users. We were one of the first people to get out an article on it, and also how you could kind of work your way around the limitations. And that article started ranking for us within like 3 months. It was really, really quickly, and then has continued to rank really well. We built a whole campaign out around it. So in part, I think because we were on it first. And then a fourth way to go a little further down the funnel is to focus on trends. And I was in a session earlier today. Which one was it? It was Jen from SAP talking about content hubs, and some of their best performing content has been trends. Trend-related content has done particularly well for them. This was an example from when I worked with a senior living client, and we started noticing, this data is from Google Trends, that there was an increasing rise in search for the term life plan community, which is like a newer term for senior living communities. Still not the most popular term, but it's becoming more of a label that people use. And so we put out a complete guide to life plan communities. And now, like 4 years later, it's still ranking as #1 for that search term, I think in part because we hit it early and we built authority around it really quickly. As I mentioned, I think this content is ripe for conversion opportunities to pull people through to the next step. So make sure there are no dead ends. This can be repackaging the content as an ebook, having a blog or newsletter signups, retargeting ads. But once we've got people there and we've got them engaged with this really middle of the funnel, deep, in-depth content, let's not leave them hanging. Jeff Eisenberg said that, well, it's much easier to double your business by doubling your conversion rate than by doubling your traffic, especially today. And then lastly, on going niche. So we talked about going longer, more in-depth, going further down the funnel. And then third is prioritizing user intent over high-volume keywords. This has been the trend for a while. But more than ever, Google is showing us, this community content is showing us that it's about user intent, and it's about talking about what your audience is talking about and talking how your audience is talking, more than trying to rank for specific keywords. Google is also making it a little bit harder for us to do research on long-tail keywords, but there's a lot of other really good resources out there. Answer the Public is a great one. That's what the screenshot is from here. And they will show you searches people are putting in, what types of questions they are, other related questions. People also ask. The clicking rabbit hole, right, is also a really good place to see what are the words people are using, what's the question they have after the question, after the question. Great place to research. The communities and forums, also a good place to go in, see what people are asking, what words they're using. And then you probably have some good internal sources for this information as well. I heard somebody recently who's going through looking at support tickets and what are the most frequent questions people are asking? What's the language that you're using? What are the queries that are coming into the documentation center? That at least gives you an indicator of topics that people care really deeply about. Also doing customer interviews, putting some more effort there if you want, customer market surveys. All of those are going to help us really deeply understand and lean into the content niche. All right, so we have done all this effort to figure out our content niche, to lean deeply into it. Now I want to talk a little bit about investing in building brand authority. So in a world here where Google keeps changing the rules, I think brand authority has gotten the short end of the stick. I think that many companies have leaned really hard into SEO, into demand generation. Obviously, as content marketers, we have functions to serve there too. But now, with all of these changes in Google and with what audiences expect from brands, it's honestly, I don't think it's a nice to have. I think it's critical for brands to focus on building up their brand authority as well. This is about bringing your unique expertise into the world, having a compelling brand narrative, stories that your audience cares about, and building your authority through thought leadership. This is going to build credibility with Google. It's going to build credibility with your audience. I don't think it's just for the big brands anymore. I think this agency said it really well. Yes, Google still favors larger, more powerful brands. This doesn't mean your business can't compete, but it does show that identifying and creating your unique brand voice and identity is important for improving your organic search rankings. It's why it's worth investing in holistic marketing practices that focus on your brand message as a whole entity, not just focusing on our website. All right, so how do we do that? First, starting with compelling brand narratives. I am a big believer that good content marketing starts with good positioning and messaging. I know that doesn't always sit with a content marketing team. In some cases it might, so you might have the opportunity to work on crafting those compelling narratives and messages. If not, you could partner with your product marketing team, with your corporate marketing team. I've done a different presentation on a couple messaging frameworks that I really, really love. If anyone is interested in that, I'd be happy to share it afterwards. I get really passionate about messaging. So first, you want to nail down those brand stories. What on earth are we trying to say? What's our point of view? And then looking for those content sweet spots that we're going to try to build authority in. And that's that intersection of your strategic narratives you've just established and your expertise, what your customers care about, and what they're searching for. And once you've got those two things figured out, not before, we can jump into the fun work of trying to build some thought leadership and establish authority in that way. And I'm talking about thought leadership here really in terms of like building topical authority, not getting your executives a byline in Forbes, right? Which is a lot of people mean sometimes when they say thought leadership. So we're talking about topical authority. Lots of different ways to do that. One that's come up a lot recently is investing in original research. I think there were at least 2 sessions here on that this week. And again, from Andy Crestadina, we can see that over half of content marketers are not doing original research. So we've got a huge opportunity here. It doesn't have to be super difficult. That same research you're doing to find your content sweet spots, find the data points that your customers are missing, find the burning questions that they want to find answers to. Content Marketing Institute does a really excellent job with this. I know I have devoured a couple of their recent reports. And so that's one way to build that authority. Jay Baer said recently, the future of successful blogging will inexorably tilt towards original research and multi-perspective roundups, not because those formats are inherently better, but because they're harder to be disrupted by AI. That makes sense, right? ChatGPT can't come up with an original thought, so inherently it cannot do original research. Now, it might eventually take your original research and put it out to the world, but for a time, you'll have a competitive advantage there over AI and also over your competitors. It's very hard for competitors to replicate original research. And you could survey your own customer base, your audience base. You could work with an external research firm to do a survey or audience research if you don't have that audience. That's not the only way to build authority and thought leadership. There are lots of different ways to do that. So also you could bring in outside experts, like you talked about that a little bit earlier. Google is paying attention to your authors, so pay some attention as well to who you are setting up as your authors. Make sure they have good bios, that they look like credible sources. If you don't have, again, that subject matter expertise in-house, you could have the bylines from an external expert, have them fact check what your team is writing, and have them be a collaborator on the post. All of those things help boost industry credibility. And then, again, investing in some big bets for brand. I know that's not always an easy sell, but I do think it's going to be important for more and more companies to pay attention to. I have a whole different presentation that I put together on, no, it's not really a presentation, it's just a bunch of ideas of inspiration of companies of all sizes that are doing some really awesome thought leadership, things from podcasts to publications, content hubs, video series. I hope everybody can see the slides. There's a link there. Actually, you know what? I was going to give everybody the link to the slides in the beginning, and I forgot. But can everybody see the slides? Can anyone not see the slides? Are they a little hard? Yeah, they're a little hard to see in the back. Okay, so if you go to bit.ly, bit.ly/, it's not the link on the screen. Don't look at the screen, link on the screen. That one will work too, but there's a different folder that has the slides in it. And then CMW, we're going to grab it so I have it right. CMW 24-AOW, my initials, AOW. So bit.ly/CMW 24-AOW. And that'll take you to a folder that has my slides. And so if you're having trouble in the back, maybe that'll help you follow along. And then also that folder has this as well. So some of my favorite ideas of thought leadership inspiration. Thanks for your patience there. I wanted to make sure everybody had that. All right, next we're going to talk about, so we've built all this great content, we're going to establish this amazing authority and thought leadership, but we can't just put it out on the internet and hope that people will find it. That really rarely works anymore, unless, again, you're already a really big powerhouse brand. So we want to reduce reliance on SEO with a diversified brand awareness strategy, and this is really all about starting to put your eggs in more than just the SEO basket. I know so many are probably doing all of this already. A lot of these channels, you may be like, oh yeah, totally using these, but maybe you will pick up a couple here that you're not thinking about or leveraging for content right now. First, paid promotion. So again, I know this doesn't always sit with content marketing, so you might need to partner with your demand generation team, your digital marketing team, your paid media team, and start to explain and have conversations with them about this shift that is happening, where, of course, those teams generally want to put paid dollars towards things that are going to drive leads, that are going to get sales, that are, more middle, bottom of the funnel. But it's getting harder and harder for our demand generation campaigns to perform well if nobody knows who the heck we are and we haven't established that brand authority. So trying to get some budget, maybe some experimentation budget, to see if you can get some lift around brand authority and if that also then helps influence the impact of the demand gen campaigns. So things like paid search ads, display and retargeting ads, influencer marketing, content syndication, review sites, all different ways that you can help align your strategic narratives and your authority building content across those channels and get in front of a bigger audience, increase your reach, get to the top of Google. Obviously, the downsides are potentially cost, and the leads might not always be really high quality. So you want to test out all those different channels and see what kind of leads you're getting. But again, remembering it's not all about getting necessarily quality leads at this stage. You're looking to also build some awareness. I wanted to do a quick spotlight on influencer marketing as one of those paid channels. This was something that we just started experimenting with at my last company, and I am excited to see, you can see a few stats here. A lot of B2B marketers, B2C obviously heavy on influencer, but a lot of B2B marketers are using it and saying that they're seeing very good results as well. So potentially an opportunity there to get in front of a new audience that you maybe have not engaged with before. Then we've got lots of organic channels where you can continue to bolster awareness, grow thought leadership, even influence the direction of the conversation with your content. User communities, social media, guest posts, PR. Quick spotlight on user communities, because that one has come up so much. For sure, I would use Reddit as an opportunity to research and see what your customers are talking about, and then I would engage with caution. I think that there are opportunities to maybe see what of your keywords are ranking well there, create content on that topic, and maybe post a backlink there. But again, sparingly, don't be overly promotional. You'll get downvoted. Some people are seeing success with Ask Me Anything sessions in Reddit. It's another opportunity. And then maybe you have industry communities outside of like Reddit and Quora, where you could build up some of your internal folks as subject matter experts, start to be a leader in those communities and engage in a meaningful way. And then maybe, if the conditions are right, even building your own community. That is a lot of effort and work, but you can actually see from this marketing automation example we looked at earlier that Constant Contact's own user community is ranking above Reddit. So that's an option. All right, and then owned media, and that's our growing and nurturing our audiences where we own the list, email marketing, lead nurturing, by consistently demonstrating, this was a term Andy Crestodina used recently, extreme expertise. And I think especially here with sales enablement and partner enablement too, do a quick spotlight on sales enablement. You'll burn bridges not only with your prospects, but with your sales team too, if the content is not really demonstrating that extreme level of expertise. This was an example at my education company where we created a really high quality thought leadership publication, and it was a tool for the sales team. They were actually able to get the highest executive level persona, the superintendent, to sit in on meetings and demos that they never would have done for just a regular product demo, because they were so impressed with the quality and the investment the company was putting into thought leadership. You want to break those things down for your sales team into small bites, data points, things that help them connect it back to the solution, and of course get their feedback on what's working. And then last one on diversifying our channels, getting outside of all SEO basket, is to think outside the box. Things that are old are new again, right? So direct mail, in-person events, industry partnerships, referral programs, all of these are opportunities to keep coming back to those strategic narratives, opportunities to distribute and break down the authority building thought leadership content. All right, and then we're coming into the train station here. Last thing, as Google keeps changing all of the rules, is to reevaluate how we are measuring content marketing. So I have a number of slides and references here from SparkToro. If you didn't catch Amanda Natividad's session earlier on zero-click marketing, it was really excellent. Check that one out later. And really, you can see here, there are so many. We talked about some of these already. Things that are impacting our ability to track what's happening on Google, the impact of our content. And the old ways of marketing attribution are becoming harder. Maybe not, I'm not going to say they're dead. It's not like people say that, but they're getting harder. So it's a good time, I think, to start advocating for a different way of measuring content. It's really, I think, a move back towards marketing as an art and a science that, yes, we want to measure everything that we can measure, but there's also a lot that we can't measure, and that marketing is the sum of all of its parts, that there are things people are doing online, offline, things that we can't track that are going to ultimately influence that buying decision, and we can't pinpoint every single thing in a perfect linear journey like we would like to be able to do. So again, a slide here from SparkToro advocating for a shift towards lift-based marketing. I think this is super interesting, and it's really focusing on the sum of your activities and then seeing, are we seeing a lift in brand searches for our products and our company name? Are we seeing engagement? Are we seeing overall lift in traffic, even if we can't track those sources? Again, a little bit more of a return to marketing as an art and a science and a brand awareness, but those things are becoming more and more critical to getting the traffic that we need and the attention that we need. Rand Fishkin said attribution fundamentally doesn't work anymore. I wouldn't say it completely doesn't work anymore, but I think we're headed that direction. When you make marketing investments based instead on knowing who your audience is and where and how you can influence them, you can massively improve your results. And so again, you're probably thinking, I was thinking when I read this, like, okay, but how do you convince your leadership that we're not going to have multi-touch attribution anymore? Or maybe we will, but it's not the whole picture. We're going to go by lift. That sounds really fluffy. For sure, it's hard. I think it's going to be hard. I'm hoping that more and more people start to kind of shift the mentality this direction. But a few suggestions from an article that Rand wrote on this topic was to ask for an experimental period. That can be a good way to get started. See if you can test it out. Or I've seen success with this one. Show how the competition is doing it. Maybe there's a channel that's a little bit harder to attribute back to revenue, but you've got a big competitor that's doing it. That can help convince leadership to try it out. And then worst case, make some small investments in your spare time. See if you can prove it out. Show the impact that these brand awareness and brand authority building activities have on lifting your other metrics, and then hopefully advocate for more budget. All right, in a world where Google keeps changing the rules, it's really all about prioritizing relevance and resonance over ranking potential. We've talked about leaning into your unique niche, going into more depth, going deeper down the funnel. We've talked about building out your brand authority with differentiated thought leadership, investing in diverse brand awareness channels, not putting all your eggs in the SEO basket, and then beginning to advocate for lift-based measurement over attribution. I'll end with a quote here from Rand Fishkin again. Digital marketing in 2024 is a lot like marketing in 1964. It's getting the right message to the right people in the right places at the right time to the right audience. Thank you so much. Best way to connect with me is on LinkedIn or email.